So we're back working on this F150. I've got the fuel injectors here. Opted for the new Bosch ones. This is what this particular one calls for. There were two different style of injectors, and I'm not sure what's in there now because obviously they're slightly different than I haven't compared them. We're going to do that. But we're going to put these in this morning and see how it runs. So here are the two different injectors that came out. This one came out at number 7. This one came out of number 5. You can see they're different injectors. And this is a new Bosch one. It looks to be like this injector that we're about to put in is the same as the one that came out of number 7. It's got kind of a hex on it rather than a round body. But we're going to put a complete set in so that we're sure that we've got a match set, although there's numbers on this one and there are numbers on this one if you can make them out. We're going to put in a complete match set and then see how it runs. So there's the fuel rail assembly removed. If you were just changing one injector, you could likely just lift the rail enough to get access to the one injector, but given the fact that we're changing all of them, I decided to take the whole fuel rail out. So you take the air box out of the way, disconnect all the appropriate wiring and hoses that are intertwined around the fuel rail, and you can take the rail out from around the wiring. Of course, disconnect all the injectors. Several of the injector connectors on this engine are compromised. The tabs are broken, so this has obviously been worked on before. Okay, so here's how I'd recommend installing these injectors. Pull the plastic caps off, put some dielectric grease, or you could use chassis grease. Snap the clip in. The clip goes in from this side. Snap it into that little groove, just like that. Put it in the groove first, then you can leave that cap on there for now. Slide the injector into the fuel rail and push straight down, and then the snap ring locks it in place. And it orients it in the correct orientation too. And repeat with the other 6 injectors. So there's all 8 injectors reinstalled, all the clips locked in place, all oriented in the correct orientation, and seals lubricated, ready to install. I've taken the pressure tee out of there, and we'll answer the phone. So it turns out 2 of the electrical connectors that plug into the injector are physically broken. That's why I know this thing has been apart before. So I've got a previously enjoyed harness off of some other Ford here. So this is an injector connector that matches. So I'm going to steal one of these out of here. And one of the plug-ins to the ignition coil is compromised as well, and I might have an ignition coil connector. That might be it right there. I don't know. I'll have a look. So I've decided rather than to cut and splice the wires, I just depin the electrical terminals and replace the connector body. So I've removed the secondary lock, which is the red part in the front, and then I'm releasing the terminals, and they just pull out. Now you want to make sure you maintain the correct orientation of the terminals because the polarity on this solenoid might make a difference. So just to be safe, don't mix them up. So rather than splicing 2 wires, I'm just going to change this and put the secondary lock back in so that it saves me from having to splice wires back there. So there's that repaired wire, replaced just the 2 terminals, maintained the correct polarity. It's a black connector instead of a gray one, but it doesn't matter. It fits in the same series. It came off of Ford. Here's the other connector off of the ignition coil. Where is that? Where's the ignition coil one? It's here somewhere. Oh, it's right here. So this secondary or primary lock is broken. Whoever did this last time glued it back on with RTV sealant. I don't work like that. So it's all back together. I'm just waiting for IDS to boot up, and then we'll have a look at cylinder contribution, see if it's improved now. I had it running briefly and fuel rail's charged, and I got no fuel leaks, so we're going to check to make sure the fuel pressure holds now like it does, or like it's supposed to. We can look at that on data. Well, that looks much better. Definitely made a difference. Definitely smoother than it was before. And there's probably still some air pockets in the fuel rail because this is the returnless system and the only way out is through the injectors. I've only had it running for about a minute. But definitely the misfire on cylinder 1 and 7 is dropped out once there. It's probably still got air in the fuel rail, so we'll let it run for a little while. So here's desired fuel rail pressure, 270 kilopascals, and it's running at 270. I'm going to shut it off and turn the key back on quickly so we can see if it holds fuel pressure. I lost communication as soon as I shut the key off, unfortunately, so that's not going to work. So it's still losing fuel pressure. I'm going to try this fuel system test here, and it does a preliminary test on the fuel pump. This thing does need a fuel pump because the sender is defective, but one of the check valves in the fuel pump might be leaking as well. The pressure regulation portion of the fuel pump might be leaking. We'll see. I've already done this and it failed the test. I'll show you what it looks like. So it's looking like this thing's going to get a fuel pump as well. I'm sure we don't have leaking injectors now, and I know we don't have any external fuel leaks. So here we go. Key is on. So it's supposed to get to a target here, and it's got low fuel pump pressure output. That's first thing it flags. And now you can see the fuel pressure leaking off. So there is a problem with the fuel pump as well. Excessive pressure drop is being detected. Do not attempt to crank or start the engine until the following has been verified. Well, it doesn't have leaking injectors anymore, I'm sure, because we've replaced them. So, as I said, this thing needs a fuel pump assembly because the fuel gauge doesn't work. And I guess we're going to be doing that now. So here's the cylinder balance test now. The truck is running significantly smoother than it was before. Erase the histogram. The odd stumble on number 2, number 5, but nowhere near as consistent as it was before with number 1 and number 7. So this thing had set a pending code P0430 for catalyst efficiency below the limit on bank 2. Here we're looking at the oxygen sensor activity. Bank 1 sensor 1 is switching nicely. Bank 2 sensor 1 is switching nicely, but you see bank 2 sensor 2 is got too much activity compared to bank 1 sensor 2, which is this one right here. Let's blow that one up. So bank 1 sensor 2 is flat line, so that catalyst is working okay, flat line about 0.6, 0.7 volts, but you can see the activity on this one is switching too much, so that catalyst is poisoned, probably due to the running for some time with misfires and fuel leakage from the injectors. So it's going to need a catalyst. At least it's going to generate a P0430 code after 2 drive cycles. Oh joy.